So as said, our goal was to, from the start, to build the most complete and versatile digital archiving solution. And of course, to do that, you need, of course, what has just been explained in the previous solution, so an open solution that implements several standards, but also flexibility with regard to metadata schemes, because there's variations, of course, from country to country. Implement the preservation actions within the solution as well, not just during ingest. You have to be capable to handle large or very large volumes, to have a high available, flexible solution with regard to deployments. It has to be resilient, and you need to have data portability. As such, of course, we implement information packages. You need to have a proper exit strategy and to avoid vendor lock-in. And next to that, be compliant with every possible regulation which is out there in the field. So in order to do that, we built a trustworthy repository that complies or allows compliance, of course, with the 14721, but that does comply with the 14641, the Belgian Digital Act. We've also implemented the several ETSIs needed to be recognized as a QTSP. And if all goes well, that is going to happen in the next few weeks. But next to that, we also implemented the E-ARK specification 204, and also several other metadata schemes for use in several countries, like, for example, MDTO, but that's a different topic. As such, we've, of course, adhered to the OIS model, where we have several actions within the archive, so the 6 OIS functions, and within the information packages, we can also use the E-ARK specification, which we'll explain later on. But something which is quite important for us as well is the ADAS, the revision of ADAS, where normally qualified electronic archiving is also going to be a part of. And for us, with the advent of the European Digital Identity Wallet, of course, it's all but logic that a long-term preservation solution can serve as an authentic source for the wallet if done properly. Okay. The solution, this is a screenshot, and something which has just been told. I didn't adapt the slides, but what you can see here is, for example, the representation information, which with some of the several metadata schemes, in this case it's a Dublin core, the solution is automatically localized based on the browser language of the user, but that's quite a different topic. But just to show you that it's basically, in the end, a solution as any other preservation solution. Okay, over to Michiel.
Yes, thank you, Frederik. So as you said, so one of the big requirements we have is, of course, to be flexible, to work with all of our different customers within public, but also in enterprise. And one of the biggest things that you see then is, of course, the different metadata schemes that they all work with. There are public sectors where you have requirements from metadata schemes. You have archives, real archives that really know their metadata schemes, but we also have enterprise customers that don't really care about the schema or the standards that is being used and just want to see their metadata. And all of that is one of the reasons that we chose to work with the E-ARK specification, because we saw that flexibility in there. Frederik, I do not have slide control, so if you can go to the next one. Yes. So how do we do the integration with E-ARK, with the E-ARK specification? Of course, it all starts with the SIP, the submission information package. And there we were lucky because, of course, the E-ARK Consortium, it gives us the Commons IP library that allows us to validate SIPs. It allows us to handle, to simplify the handling of those METS files in those SIPs, to simplify reading all the contents in the SIPs, and allowing us to map it to an AIP structure And for the AIPs, we've also used the E-ARK specification, but there, in order to integrate, there are some challenges that pop up. First of all, working with the Commons IP library wasn't that easy anymore, because although it has the AIP implementation in there, it's file storage based. And if we're looking at an enterprise solution that needs to be able to handle those very large volumes of file storage, a simple file storage just won't fit anymore. It's not scalable, it's not flexible enough. We can't put the necessary security roles on a file storage that is necessary to be able to comply to all of those standards. And if we look next to the Commons IP library, let's face it, working with METS files is not that easy. It's difficult to maintain and index. So what we have done in order to be able to work with that is we created our own AIP structure that is based on the eArchiving structure as a functionality inside our DOCBYTE platform. It allows us to map all of our functionalities like security, like retention, like that flexible storage layer that allows to go to a scalable and multi-tiered solution, that allows security with worm storage, with retention on the storage level. And at the end of the day, those functionalities allows us to create a system-wide audit trail. So we don't really work anymore on the package level, but we work on the full platform level. But we do keep inside the platform the information of how the AIP is structured based on the E-ARK specification. Now, in order to be compliant with the specification on storage level, what we have done is upon save of our transactions, when an update is done to an AIP, we start with reflecting all of those changes to the storage layer, to those METS files, to those premise files. So we do put the audits events in the premise. We do put all our information in our METS file, so that on storage layer, we are completely in line with the specification. And of course, that gives us the necessity to manage those AIPs as well throughout time, as we already specified. Metadata is one of the most important parts, and we have the luck that the E-ARK specification allows us to be very flexible in that we have multiple metadata schemas possible. If packages arrive with multiple schemas, we are also able, with our indexing engine, to combine those schemas to allow users to search over the different schemas, not only for implementing different schemas for different structures, also, for instance, for being able to adapt to changing metadata schemas, having different versions of the same metadata schema in our package structure. And we can easily do those updates through Delta submissions, which is also a great addition to the specification. It also allows us to do our preservation actions and to have a location to store everything that is coming from those preservation actions. We have the possibility to, as Frederik already showed, to have multiple renditions in our package. We have the possibility to store our fixity in premise, but also to create maybe more custom metadata files where we have, for instance, a preservation metadata, which is our evidence integrity, which contains timestamps to guarantee everything that is in the package, to guarantee the integrity over time for legal compliance reasons. And that's all actions that we can do on top of our AIPs in the system. And then, of course, we still need to visualize it. And there we have our interface, which is built completely to reflect actually the AIP structure. We immediately see we have our representation set, we have our metadata, where we have our descriptive metadata, author metadata. If preservation metadata is available, it's visible there as well. We can have multiple descriptive, multiple schemas. As said already, we have a Dublin core and an MDTO working perfectly together. And if we go into a representation view, there as well, we see the representation with its metadata, with here the preservation metadata containing the premise information. So for us, what were the advantages of working with the eArchiving specification? Yeah, I think I mentioned it already quite a few times. The flexibility was very good, useful to us because we really needed that. But also, we started looking at archiving from the OIS perspective without knowing about e-archiving. We've been looking into archiving and all the archiving standards for over years now. And what we saw reflected in the e-archiving specification is the covering of all those best practices that we have met, working with open standards. And then, of course, also very useful to us as a software company, as a builder, is the availability of existing tooling to be able to already create a package to know, okay, but also to validate what is inside our system, that it is valid against the specification and not validated by ourselves, because then, of course, we're very biased, but having the tools to validate that from an external perspective. And then, of course, for us, what we're looking forwards to most is the future, putting up clients on our solution. More and more clients are joining, but of course, the specification will also have a future. And then it's something I give you to think about, and that is what will need happen if we upgrade to newer versions of the eArch standard. And I think it's something we really need to think about. It's backwards compatibility, because we are now building systems, setting up clients with this specification. If newer versions become available, we really do not want to start upgrading those very large archives. So that's why we really look forward to working with the newer versions and seeing what we can do there.